Welcome back to Beyond the Spot, decolonizing healing one brain at a time. I am your host, Tracy Gantlin-Monroy, licensed professional counselor, supporter to your healing, and the first Black female brain spotting trainer in the world. And today, we're slowing down. I'm talking about we're slowing it all the way down, leaning into that pause that I often speak about. Because this episode is all about rhythm, the one your nervous system remembers, but hustle culture keeps overriding. We live in a world that rewards urgency, glorifies burnout, and calls exhaustion a badge of honor. Think about that for a moment. Literally, I'm talking about the world that we all share and we co create. But the body was never ever designed to live at that pace. I can remember moons ago being in school when they were sociologically talking about whitewater rush and how that dispensation of our existence whereby all things would be rushed quick, reminiscent if you've ever done rafting and how it is when you're whitewater rafting and how sometimes the raft gets thrown to and fro. And when it hits something in the lake or in the water, it could literally hydroplane, and so I know I keep telling my age, but even as I prepared for this week's episode, I literally saw myself sitting in the college classroom, listening to the professor, referencing the book that was our required reading. Excuse me, and here we are. I'm not in my 20s anymore. I'm not in my 30s. Hell, I'm not even in my 40s. And so to experience some of these unprecedented things, it's kind of like blowing my mind. But nonetheless, reflective invitation. What's the rhythm of your life right now? And does it actually match the rhythm of your body? And I don't want anyone to panic with this week's offering because I'm also doing a bonus to episode 24 that I'm calling episode 24.5. Because whether you are a colleague of mine, a clinician, healer, or if you are a seeker and you enjoy listening to the podcast where you're able to gain insight and awareness, um, I have added a bonus episode to this episode because I wanted to talk about the science, the spirituality, and the soul of coherence. And that's what I'm working around this week. So I also want to invite you to look out for the bonus episode, um, the science, the soul, the spirituality of coherence, whereby I'm doing kind of like a slight side by side of heart math and somatic experiencing, which I'm fascinated by them both and their perspectives around internal coherency and what that looks like. So I'm going to unpack that a little further. Nonetheless, welcome to this space, and I am excited that you're here. And it's always my pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure. And this week's topic is reclaiming rhythm, the nervous system beyond hustle. And I am your people, your tribe, Tracy Gantlin-Monroy. Thank you for being here. Beyond the Spot, Decolonizing Healing One Brain at a Time is a podcast that weaves my first love, of course, Brainspotting, and somatic informed modalities with embodied healing, cultural consciousness, and real talk about trauma, resilience, and recovery. Hosted by Tracy Gantlin-Monroy, a licensed professional counselor, spiritual healer, and the first Black female brain spotting trainer in the world. Each episode dares to dismantle mental health myths, uplift lived experiences, and restore collective wisdom. One conversation at a time. Beyond the Spot podcast is for educational purposes and is not therapy. Please reach out to licensed medical and mental health professionals. Thank you. Let's start right here. The speed of survival. For many of you, you know that when it comes to this idea of even healing, I really believe that there's a rate and a pace even as it pertains to that. Okay. And so my whole idea around it, my construct with it, and how I operate is I believe we heal at the speed of safety. And I also find it important for us to move at the speed of safety. And someone shared their experience with me in a training. And I've always held on to it when she said, Tracy, actually, I love the way that you move at the speed of safety. And that lingered with me. And along with that is where I noticed that healing, restoration in and of itself has a pace as well. This week, I want to start our working around this idea when we talk about reclaiming rhythm, um, the nervous system beyond hustle. Recognizing that we live in a hustle culture and we have for some time now. And so we're starting at the place of the speed of survival. Because the fact of the matter is, hustle culture isn't just a mindset. It's also a nervous system state. And when we talk about our collective nervous systems, it's a real thing. It's chronic activation disguised as ambition. It's the sympathetic system locked on, interpreting productivity as safety. And for anyone that doesn't know, the sympathetic side of our autonomous nervous system is the alert side of the nervous system, and the parasympathetic side of the nervous system is the rest state side of that two axes, or it's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, which are the two nervous systems that work together, whereby we establish regulation or homeostasis. But nonetheless, even as we speak about the speed of survival, many of us learned early that slowing down was dangerous. If you rest, you fall apart. If you pause, you lose relevance. So we keep running, even when the race is over. Because truly, the only competition any of us could ever have is our sense of self. But just imagine the idea of, as a result of environmentally, ancestrally, just in all the ways, how we just keep running. It's so interesting to me that even when it comes to anxiety, how we become so overtaken in our systems when it comes to diagnosable anxiety that we have these fixations and looping around um, anxious, evoking thoughts that most of them won't ever happen. Nonetheless, let me just kind of stay focused. But I do want to extend this reflective invitation. When you slow down, what fear arises in your body? Could it be abandonment? How about guilt? What about these tropes and stereotypes around our worthiness? Could it be the fear of uselessness? When you slow down, what is it? Just want to invite you to take a moment out to just consider that. Because the fact of the matter is, there is a historical context. When we start talking about this idea of labor going into exploitation and what that impact has had on our bodies, on our systems, because our relationship to speed and work is not just personal. Because I say not just personal because much of it is inherited. And oftentimes we take negative constructs that fuel stereotypes and tropes and we reclaim them affectionately and give them a positive spin. Prime examples, the word queer. When I was a kid, to call someone queer was just a straight up insult. Yeah. But the word queer has been reclaimed lovingly by the LGBTQIA plus community for some time now. I'll go here. This idea when it comes to Black bodied people, with the stereotypes and the tropes of my community and my people being lazy, shiftless. It's bullshit, right? And so what has happened in reclaiming this idea of working hard unceasingly, you know, that was fueled by negativity that we have reclaimed. And unfortunately, it has truly been a disservice because what has happened in so many of those instances is that so many of us have taken on in marginalized communities this idea of achievement as identity. And it's just not true. Let's go right here historically. When I talk about that exploitation, those things that we've inherited ancestrally, generationally, and we're pushing a lot of it intergenerationally. And so I just want to call our attention to it, but just even from a historical context, when it comes to slavery, whereby enslavement made productivity a measure of worth. We can lean right into colonial capitalism that demanded and still demands output. It's all about the output. It's all about the productivity, not well-being. Let's go here with the Industrial Revolution. Because industrialization in and of itself replaced rhythm with the clock. Technology turned time into a transaction, into a measurable transaction at that. Black, brown, and indigenous bodies have always been policed by pace. Faster, more, produce. These commands live in muscle memory. Hustle is not just cultural. It's generational and ancestral conditioning, y'all. Whose definition of productivity are you still carrying? Just curious. Just inviting you to be curious. You, they, and them. Get curious if you haven't been curious because it's important and it's something that needs to come to the surface. The nervous system beyond hustle is a must to be recognized. The human nervous system thrives in cycles: activation and rest, movement and stillness, inhale and exhale. But hustle flattens that cycle because the message it says and sends to us is keep going, keep performing, keep producing. When you're constantly in go mode, your body forgets how to come home. It forgets that safety isn't speed, it's actually rhythm. To reclaim rhythm is to reclaim regulation. Yep, and this is going right along with this soft life era for anybody who caught the episode last week. To reclaim rest is to reclaim power. What would happen if you let your body, not your calendar, set the pace? What level of anxiety is provoked around that even notion or that thought? Folks, let's be clear. There is a cost of urgency. Nothing in life comes without a cost. Urgency is the trauma response of systems that fear stillness. Because when people slow down, they start to feel, they start to remember, they start to resist. Stillness, my friend, is revolutionary. It disrupts capitalism, perfectionism, and let's not forget about patriarchy, all the forces that profit from your depletion. And let's not go there because, listen, it is November the 1st. Insurance renewals are available. And listen, for many people, if that extra tax exemption piece is not approved, yeah, just add that to what your premium will be when the active document expires at the end of 2025. Could not resist. Listen, I'm a mental health clinician. I accept insurance. I'm very clear. I am insured. There is not one of us that's not being impacted now collectively. So there's also this part of the collective nervous system. Just saying. What has hustle culture stolen from your nervous system? And what do you want to reclaim? And we can even expand that in our ancestry, y'all. Even when we talk about generational healing, because I operate from this idea that, yeah, we've inherited some generational traumas, but not only did we inherit traumas, we also inherited gifts and talents. And I throw it out there every time I consider it because we don't talk as much about that. And so when we start talking about healing, retrieving, our sense of selves, I think operating from a fuller picture can be helpful because none of us made it here by ourselves. Okay. And so with that, I believe that we inherit from the ancestors what remained incomplete for them because they want the best for us. Nonetheless, let's talk about reclaiming rhythm. And I'm coming from a somatic and spiritual perspective, which led me to say, look, you need to take more time and talk about internal coherency, and that's why there is an episode 24.5, because I wanted to just kind of give a broader perspective around the formulating of my own perspective personally and as a clinician. But nonetheless, when we talk about this idea of reclaiming rhythm, healing rhythm begins with noticing your body's tempo. Your heartbeat already knows the way. Your breath carries the original rhythm of your ancestors: slow, sacred, cyclical. Maybe the medicine isn't another task. Maybe it's the moment you pause long enough to hear yourself again. How do you know when your body says enough? And can you trust it when it whispers rest? One of the sexiest things about my husband for me is he is the only person that ever invited me in my entire life to take rest. He literally says to me, "Baby, take rest." Along with whenever he's home and I arrive at home, he welcomes me home. He literally says, "Baby, welcome home." It's just beautiful for me to have that acknowledgement. But seriously, because for years I'm like, why is this man telling me to take rest and I got all these things to do? And literally, he would rest and go to bed and literally kind of help me learn how sacred rest really is. Notwithstanding those times when I get to pushing really hard, and he will just say to me, "Baby, you are no superwoman." Literally. First time he says it, I'm like, yeah, okay, I heard it. But then if he has to tell me 2 and 3 times a week, I know to sit my ass down somewhere. I know that means I'm doing too much. And I want to share that with you all. Can you trust it when your body goes beyond even saying enough while whispering rest? This is where the idea of internal coherency comes in. Performative survival. Even this thing we talk about in Brainspotting, limbic countertransference, right? So let's talk about internal coherency a little bit. And I'm coming from the perspective of the alignment between what you feel, what you say, and how you show up. When we live out of rhythm, we lose internal coherency. And there are different perspectives around internal coherency. I personally resonate with heart math and somatic experiencing, and that will be included in episode 24.5. And so, with that, when we live out of rhythm, we lose internal coherency and we perform peace while our nervous systems are screaming. We literally hold peace for others while holding our breath. Yeah, that's that limbic countertransference stuff. Because the fact of the matter is, all of us, every human being has an active limbic system. That's part of survival. Animals have limbic system, mammals especially. But where I'm going at is that is actually dissonance. Y'all know what dissonance is? Yeah, I'm going to hold space for others while I'm holding my breath. That is so not congruent. That is so not present. Yeah. And so that dissonance I'm speaking about between what's presented and what's embodied, that is the nervous system's cry for truth. It's the body saying, I can't fake regulation anymore. And I'm going to tell you something else. Hello. It will one of those words. It will metastasize in your body. I'm just saying. I'm just putting it there. For clinicians, this can look like limbic countertransference, as I said earlier, our nervous system syncing with the activation of another, mirroring their chaos instead of modeling calm, where we begin to react to our reactions. And in our personal lives, it looks like people pleasing, performative empathy, or even spiritual bypassing, where we want to manifest these things absent the process, even from a spiritual perspective. And let's not even talk about the spiritual hygiene of that. I digress. Performative calm is not coherence. It's a poor attempt to contain. It's containment. True rhythm comes from integration, not image. We've been programmed, especially in the helping professions, social systems, all these ideological constructs that have hypocrisy at the root, to perform composure as proof of mastery. Going right back there as what? Achievement as identity? Yeah, no thank you. But mastery isn't perfection. It's presence. And presence requires honesty with your own sense of self and your own body. And I'm saying own, and perhaps there is some pun intended, because you own your body. Yeah. Take ownership today if you haven't. Put your hand on your heart, look yourself square in the face as that reflection illuminates in the mirror. Bring it inwardly to your soul and say, I own myself today. When you show up for others, do you do it from connection or compensation? What does authenticity feel like in your nervous system when you're activated? Do you even know? The more coherent you become internally, the more your presence becomes medicine for you and others, for you and community, for you and humanity. And let's be clear, your presence becomes fertilizer for the garden of humanity. Because coherence is the rhythm of truth. Reclaiming rhythm is how we return to coherence, to congruence, to ourselves. It's how we move from doing to being. Because the fact of the matter is, as long as we have breath, we all will always be becoming. And part of that becoming and being, it leans right into belonging. We shift from performance to presence. Your worth is not measured by your pace. Your healing is not found in hustle. And your nervous system will thank you for every breath you give back to it. Just want to give some invitations here because that's my style. Because I don't ever want you to just listen to me. I want us to process together. I want us to study together. I want us to engage and have dialogue together, system to system, heart to heart, body to body. What would internal coherence feel like for you? And when was the last time you showed up as you? Not your training, not your title, but your truth. Not even your role in your family systems. Not even your call. When was the last time you showed up as you? What would liberation feel like in your breath? Because when you slow down, you don't lose momentum. You find meaningfulness. you find meaning. And for many of us, we find purpose. Thank you for being with me. And I am looking so forward to drop after this episode, the bonus episode, where we can look at the spirit, the science, and the soul of coherence. And I am going to be coming from the frames of heart math and somatic experiencing. Why? Because I love them. Listen, I don't know everything. And for anybody who'd like to contribute to this conversation, please do. Because I don't purport to know everything, but I'm happy to share the little bit I know. Anyway, thank you until we meet again. And please like, subscribe, and share. I look forward to this time we spend together every week. If today's episode resonated with your nervous system or your spirit, share it with someone who's still unlearning and reach out to me. My website is gracecommunitycounseling.com. You can reach me on Instagram at Monroy LPC. That is MONROY LPC. Also, I have offerings from retreats to Brainspotting trainings to workshops, you name it. And I am also a speaker. So if you ever need a speaker with my skill set, look me up. Give me a call. Let's see what can happen. And absolutely for you clinicians and adjacent body healers, feel free to reach out and attend a Brainspotting training. We have trainings all the time. Thank you.